welcome to a special edition of the Box People. Welcome to the Box People.
Oh, did I get it in there?
Good, you did good. Okay, so our guest today is Pamela. She is a good friend of mine. I've known her, it has to be almost a decade now. It's been quite a while. I think Tyler was celebrating his 6th or 7th birthday when you brought Dylan to the birthday party. Her son and my son became friends through Taekwondo. I was at Taekwondo. I was studying and I was working there at the time. And Pamela and I became friends from that. And that's how our friendship took off. Pamela, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'll be 41 soon. I'm in California with sunshine, obviously. I have a passion for talking with people and helping friends. I have a bachelor's degree in science of psychology. I've studied 22 years psychology, and I, for September 11th, had to get out of school because of a shortage we had for security forces. And then I became a mom. And so life changed. I continued to study, but I finally got my bachelor's in 2019. And I would like to finish my master's at Azusa Pacific. And I would like to do a nonprofit eventually, a website where people can go and get free help, free video therapy and other resources, free resources. And
Pamela, I love that. I love that. Well, as your friend, I know how big your heart is, and I know how you like to help people. Pamela has been there for me when I've been in the deepest, darkest of situations. She's been with me through my kidney failing, dialysis, getting a new kidney, all those things. Pamela has been right there with me. And, we've watched our kids grow up together. We've been through trials as moms, and sometimes the only thing that can really help you is another mom, like just hearing you out when you're frustrated and sad and you feel like your kid just isn't hearing anything you've ever told them.
Your boys are the same age?
My son will be 18 soon, but I think we're about a year apart.
They're a year apart. So my son is the 7th, and Dylan is what, the 9th?
Yes, that's also, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so they're literally, a year and basically a year apart. So, Dylan was 2 days old when Tyler was born. So if you think of it that way, but so Pamela, I just want to share. So Pamela knows a lot of my background. Chrissy, you know a bit of it. Tina, quite a lot of it. But some of the stuff I've been through, Pamela has been able to she has a really good ear. So she'll just let you just kind of pour it all out. And when I get in those moments where I'm having a really difficult time, I always say it like this, and it's probably a bit too graphic, but I basically feel like I emotionally vomit all over her, blah, 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 this is what I'm going through. And then she'll stay very calm where I'm super emotional, and she'll say, well, and she'll be able to stay very calm with me, but just kind of walk me through some stuff. And then she'll ask me some questions. So Pamela, that's one of the things I appreciate so much about you, is that, with your own stuff going on, your own life, your own hardships, you still care about other people.
For me, I was diagnosed with complex PTSD. And the psychiatrist at the time noticed that I was digging.
I'm sorry, it's not you guys. I'm sorry.
What happened? Oh, you're laughing?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
How it went down. What?
Okay, nothing. I just thought it was stupid.
Oh, you don't laugh at our guests. Go ahead, Pamela. So unprofessional.
So the psychiatrist noticed I was digging a hole, making my hand bleed, and he labeled that as psychomotor agitation. So I prefer to see people, their whole body, what's going on, if they're kicking their foot, if they're laughing and covering their face. But I could do both.
So are you looking to be like a psychiatrist, psychologist, someone that prescribes meds?
Yeah, so I want to go all the way to becoming a doctor, a psychiatrist.
So to prescribe meds.
Yes.
So you probably had to do a lot of like science, chemistry, all that, right?
Yes. Yes. And I got a lot more.
Yeah, pharmaceutical. Yeah.
Apologies.
So you said something interesting. Stop me if we're not allowed to talk about this, but I had told you that right before my 17th birthday, I got diagnosed with general anxiety disorder, and they right away put me on, I think it was 25 milligrams of Zoloft.
Mhm.
And you had said something interesting, which I never knew about. And again, stop me if you can't talk about it, but how Zoloft is usually where they start with.
A lot of medical insurance companies promote Zoloft as a first, a preferential thing financially. It also is on the softer side of the SSRIs for the effect on people. So they try that first, so they're not causing any other side effects.
Withdrawals are crazy. And you know, the generic doesn't work for me. I have to have the brand, and the brand is so expensive, which is another question I had for you, if you knew why that was.
You know, that's a really good thing you brought up because I also had the generic and I had a lot of symptoms, a lot of side effects right off the bat.
Yes, me too.
Nausea.
I'm confused because Sonny's being serious now. I'm sorry.
I had a lot of nausea.
Yes.
The thing the psychiatrist emphasized and gave me a really deep stare when he said it was that it would completely take away my sex drive. And I was like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
It definitely did. And it actually made me more sad.
Takes away your appetite, your sex drive, your will to live. The side effects are this, and this, but you'll feel okay.
Right.
It definitely helped with anxiety. When the first 2 weeks I was on it, I actually asked people, I said, is this what it's like to just breathe without having to think about it?
Zoloft zombie. Yep. And then you get fat, even though you're not eating. And you're fat and alone and not horny.
It was a confusing time because I was enjoying the the lack of anxiety. But,
that was great.
Yeah, and they ended up changing me to the highest dose of Lexapro, and that actually had many. It had only one side effect instead of having all the nausea.
Too much sex?
What?
I said too much sex?
No, it still affected. So for SSRIs, it's like a thermostat that keeps you from going too high or too low.
Oh, I remember you dealing with that.
So an orgasm is definitely high. So it still, Lexapro for me, it still made the orgasms less powerful.
but wait. I don't know if this has anything to do with that medication, but I came to your house one time and we were going to go on a walk. And I remember you saying very nonchalantly, just watch me because I might pass out. Like it was no big deal. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? And then I remember we were trying to get back to your place, and I think I had a bottle of water. You had a little one. You finished yours, but you were overheating, so we had to sit on a curb until you kind of came back to like normal, I guess, temperature. And then I give you my bottle of water and you drink that. And by the time we got back to your house, you were just done. Like, so was that when you were taking that medication?
Yes, that was the psychiatrist and I talked about that several times. He felt that I was such a danger to myself that was actually balancing the scales, even though I was getting more frequent heat sensitivities. I would pass out. I was kind of scared when I was driving in the summertime. But still it was helping. It did get to a point where I had to finally stand up to the psychiatrist and say, look, what else can we do? So he lessened my dosage. That did help. Keeping hydrated. I don't drink water. That was probably also affecting me. You have to drink a lot of water when you're on antidepressants. There's been cases where electricity has gone out in facilities where they have elderly, and a lot of them are on SSRIs, and they've died in the heat exhaustion. They need to be extra hydrated.
Oh, don't tell me that. I'm also a hypochondriac.
Yeah, it controls the SSRIs for antidepressants controls our heat, our thermostat.
I didn't know that. I wish I knew that in the beginning because my body felt like it was on fire all the time.
Yeah, and it is. They say it's rare. For me, it was just more real. Like, okay, I don't care if it's rare. I got this, and this is a
Yeah,
problem.
that's right.
Pamela, I kind of wanted to move on to something because something I deal with, and I know I've spoken to you about this before, but I know you can't diagnose or anything like that, but I kind of wanted to talk about self-sabotage because I self-sabotage and I feel like it comes from, you know, a lot to do with my childhood. And so I was wondering, is that something you've seen a lot of, you know, with people that they kind of purposely like damage good things in their life?
I feel like in my experience and with other close family and friends, we've all done that at one point or another, and it's somehow closely related to shame. The feelings of shame we have. We can have feelings of lack of confidence with depression, with all kinds of personality, mental disorders. But when we have trauma, that's a common thing. We experience a lot of shame. So for me, I overeat to where I'm sick sometimes. I eat things I shouldn't. Um, there's relationships maybe I don't feel deserving of that I self-sabotage.
Right. So for me, like one of the things I'll do is like, and you know this firsthand with me, Pamela, is that like I'll eat really, really great. I'll be working out. I'll be doing just like completely fantastic. My skin looks great. I feel great. My clothes fit better. I feel like I'm not dealing with anxiety as much. I like generally like I feel less tense, you know, everything. And then I'll be like, you know what? I'm gonna go get that vanilla shake. I'm gonna go grab this. I'm gonna go get that. And then pretty soon I'm just packing weight back on. Like, but is that something like so you feel like that's something common in most people that they do that?
Yes, definitely. In family and friends, not just in colleagues, school, a lot of people that get involved in this in psychology education, they struggle with things themselves, and we share things in the classroom, and I've heard that a lot throughout the years.
What kind of again, I know you can't diagnose anything or anything like that, but what role does, you know, eating healthier and working out play with mental struggles?
A huge role, unfortunately, and food is my drug of choice. um, there is about 7 depressive disorders out there that can start in childhood, in adulthood, that are not affected by diet, but the more on the bigger side, they are affected, especially foods. It's specific to each person, but whatever you know upsets your body, um, whether it makes your stomach hurt, gives you a headache, makes you itch, whatever it does to you, lactose intolerance, any inflammation in the body. There's been studies on that it causes the gut to become imbalanced and to have a lack of vitamin D. And so a lot of
I'm sorry, a lack of vitamin D.
vitamin D and serotonin is produced in the gut as well. That's what we talked about SSRIs earlier for antidepressant. That's all built in the stomach and fed through the neurotransmitters of our brain.
I have a question. That the reason that kind of stunned me when you said that is so I have a vitamin D deficiency. I've had to go in for iron infusions and I'm on vitamin D. Most people don't even have to take it. And when they do take it, they maybe take it once a month to twice a month. And they have me on it 4 times a month, right? Because my vitamin D is so low. So I'm wondering, because I've heard that stress could affect, and you know, everybody here knows I'm a transplant patient, that, you know, I've had the kidney transplant and everything. So my thing is, and I know vitamin D can actually cause, if the lower your vitamin D is, it causes anemia, which could cause kidney failure, right? So I'm just kind of wondering if, like with vitamin D, like losing that, like that can stem from trauma, like because you don't have serotonin, because you're not dealing with you're not having everything in your body you're supposed to have.
It's like the chicken or the egg.
Right. Yeah. Which
So
comes first?
complex,
Right?
but if it is not, like, for example, there's about 7 categories of depressive disorders in the DSM, and I think Tina and you and I talked about the DSM-5 is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders. It's what psychiatrists use to diagnose mental disorders, and in there they list about 7 categories of depressive disorders. So, like, for example, a child under 12, they could have disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. And I don't know if they're studying them, as I think they should do more research on these kids, because that is a really good question that you asked about the
Well,
diet, the vitamin D.
well, I was wondering too, like, okay, so I mean, I don't know this is if this is anything you could actually answer for me, but it's more like something I just want to talk about because I've spoken about it before. But number one, it's like more and more people, because I don't have like a so-called food disorder, but I like you, my drug of choice is food. Like you know, like if I'm gonna get coffee, I get extra whipped cream every time. I even told Joseph the other day when he said, "What kind of coffee you want?" I said, "Doesn't matter, just put extra whipped cream on it." Like every time, this is what I do to myself, knowing I shouldn't have it, right? But so what I notice with pregnant women, they'll be like, "Oh, well, I'm craving McDonald's. I'm craving this fast food place. I'm craving that thing." But then what we're doing is we're taking these unborn children and we're shoving all this bad food, which is loaded with hormones and pesticides and basically poisons, and putting it into the bodies. And therefore, this child is growing off toxicity, right? And then, so it kind of has made me think in the past. So now you're done with this. Oh, that being said, it's like these children are born and we're seeing more and more of an uprise in children disabilities. Like, I mean, it has taken off through the roof, right? So I'm kind of wondering, like, you know, in schools, how we do vision tests here in America. We do vision tests, we do hearing tests, we check for lice, I believe once or twice a year. My thing is, would you happen to know if we're any closer to offering a free test for children as they first start in elementary school, and seeing if we could see if they have any issues that they can get the help for at a very early age if they already are dealing with a mental disorder?
In my personal experience, my daughter, she was diagnosed with a social communication disorder. It's about the lowest on the spectrum of autism. It's the lowest amount of symptoms. A lot of people can't tell that she has autism at all. But when she was 4 years old, she still wasn't speaking words. And so we put her in we got her a speech therapist. They recommended that even though she could not speak, that she start kindergarten. So at that time, they were already aware of her issues. They gave her, my brain is having a fart right now. They gave her an individual education plan. So she had 2 extra teachers at all times and a speech therapist. But I would like to see, especially those younger grades, it's a good thing you brought up, the younger grade teachers to have extra credentials, not just in child development, but to be able, because they're our first responders, basically. They have to notice these things. And I had a friend that her son had dyslexia. The teacher, instead of bringing it up to staff, put him separate from the class, called him a troublemaker.
Oh, that's so sad.
And she stopped grading his work, and the mother finally addressed it, and they had to move schools. But the teacher is the first responder. She needs to be familiar with behaviors that are alarming, with struggles. When the kid is just struggling, they're not necessarily having ADD or ADHD, but they're really struggling to learn. They need to be have more credentials, I think.
Right. My feeling is that, I feel very blessed. I get to work with special needs kids, and in my job. And it just seems that if we were to say, Joe Schmo, Chrissy, are you okay?
It's just a bird.
Okay. So Joe Schmo, if he has an issue and it's not being diagnosed, they're not getting the help they need, whatever. I just feel like if the teacher, or even if somebody came out to the school, because if a dentist comes out and does a dental check once a year, they have like 2 dentists come out. So imagine if they had somebody come out, and of course it would take time, but they did this, with each student at these schools and said, hey, we're seeing signs that your child's dealing with this. Whether that means whether they're going off, if their child has, try to think of a word, EP something, but like if these children have certain behavioral issues and somebody's able to sit down and talk with that child, it just seems like we might be able to give help like years before something would even be diagnosed. Before sometimes, because people, when they've been dealing with something, there's a little boy in my life who has taken to, and he's little, he's not, in his teens, he's little, and he has taken to hurting himself. And I'm not just talking like a little bit of stuff. I literally saw this child smack himself so hard across the face that his head like literally moved. And at first it made me really angry, but then like my heart broke for him, because clearly something else is going on, because I don't feel like this is a normal child response. But like, since when has our world even been normal anymore? But the way that he responded to being disciplined, getting in trouble because he shouldn't have done something, was to hurt himself. And when I say he got in trouble, he wasn't physically disciplined. He was asked to move away from something that he was messing with, had to sit down, and then this is when he hurt himself. And what do we do with a child if they're hurting themselves now at this young age? What's going to happen, 10 years from now when they're almost going to be an adult? What happens then? And I know that's a lot, Pamela, to even bring up. I just am curious about, like, if he had the help he needed at this young age, could something happen where he was given the help, medication or not? Like, it just seems like something could be done for a child like that that's having a hard time.
That is really good. It's something I've never thought about, even with my experience with my daughter. It would be nice if they had specific testing for certain things, especially like dyslexia. But even a survey for the teachers, do you have any students that are exhibiting these specific traits?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of thing, just to keep them, because they're busy. Most public school teachers, especially kindergarten teachers, I don't know how they do that job, but something to keep them on track and keep those kids from slipping under the cracks.
Right.